What's up, friends? Today we're going to be reviewing a film called Friendsgiving. Friendsgiving is a 95-minute film directed by Nicole Paone, Paone, and it's a story about a character who first doesn't want to set up a Friendsgiving. It's during Thanksgiving time and everyone's busy and nobody really wants to, put the effort into setting up a Friendsgiving. But through the course of certain events, they get together, and it's the movie about different types of interactions, conflicts, situations that arise from a bunch of friends getting together at Thanksgiving. It's a funny film. It's definitely chick flick comedy film kind of vibe. The main character, Molly, and her best friend, you really fall in love with. Honestly, every character in this movie is pretty three-dimensional. When you first meet them, they're this specific type of person. But then as the movie goes on, you start to realize that, wait a minute, that person is a lot more 3D than I thought. It's cool to see all the characters develop and to see that every single one is their own specific person. And it's not just copy-paste characters. So that part's cool. They're all unique. They're all different. And I think that's the magic in this movie, is that it's a Thanksgiving get-together. When you have get-togethers with your family or even Friendsgivings with your friends, it's always a crazy fun time. I don't know about the family because it depends on your family, but if you have Friendsgivings, it's always a wild adventure because you have so many different personalities at one table. Everyone talking to each other, everyone trying to vibe. It's a cool atmosphere, and this movie does a great job of playing with the atmosphere, and it takes it to extremes. For comedy reasons I enjoyed watching, but some people might not like. It's definitely not a movie where you'd want to go into with logic. You don't want to be thinking when you watch this movie. This is definitely a movie where you're going to go into disconnect, maybe with your friends, or maybe you're just alone and you want to de-stress and stop thinking about things. Maybe it's around Thanksgiving time. Nevertheless, it's a great film about everyone coming together. The situations are unique. It teaches you about being yourself and approaching situations like Friendsgivings as a way to connect and get to know people instead of, oh, I have to go to a Friendsgiving, It's a fun adventure. They really do a great job of bringing together an eclectic group of characters who, different age groups, different demographics, different interests, and how they all converge and how they can all be in a room together and still vibe and still have fun. I would say if you're the type of person who is into like cheesy comedy movies that aren't too serious, that don't take themselves too seriously, where there isn't like intense character development, where there isn't unbelievably fantastic jokes like 21 Jump Street, for example. It's not that level of comedy, but it definitely is still very funny and perfect for an end of the night de-stress session, or even with the boys. Like, I would say it is very much a movie that would appeal to women over men. A lot of my guy friends would dislike this movie, but I think anyone can watch it, obviously. If you're a fan of cheesy comedy movies where they're cheesy jokes, but it's still kind of awesome, I would rate it as... this is definitely not a movie you want to be watching with your parents, and I'll mention more in the parents guide, but yeah, it's best alone or maybe with friends and stuff like that. I would rate it a 3 out of 5. And the reason I say this is I think this movie would be really fun if you're turned after like a night of partying or with your friends. It's gonna be a much better adventure, I guarantee you. It is also a movie that you can easily just put on in the background as you're working and just have it running and loosely pay attention and then just catch all the good jokes as they happen. If you go that route, it's definitely a fun adventure, especially because it's not a serious comedy movie, so you don't have to pay too much attention. That's why it's easy to just have it on and then you can be working on something else. So with that, if anything I mentioned earlier resonated with you, if you heard what I'm talking about and you're thinking, whoa, that describes me a little bit, right? If that's the vibe you're getting, then I recommend this movie for you. But yeah, and now to the parents guide. So this movie is definitely not for kids, or it's definitely not something you'd want to watch with your parents, is what I would say. Anyone can watch it. It's just I wouldn't recommend with your parents because there's a lot of crude sexual content, sexual jokes that I think would be awkward in a parent setting. There's no action. For action, I put 0. I mean, there's mild arguments. In terms of sexual content, I'd rate it a 4. There's a lot of crude jokes. There's also male nudity. I wouldn't say female nudity necessarily, but there's like a BDSM scene, which might be super awkward if you're with your parents. Again, like I mentioned before, none of this should be watched with parents. But if you somehow end up in that situation, this scene isn't going to make it any better. I promise you that. So along with the jokes and the sexual content, of course, this movie is also full of language. So I'd rate it a 4 out of 5 for language. And mainly because they use the F word frequently, it's apparent. So if you're somebody who is irked by swear words or inappropriate content, then this is not the movie for you, and I would recommend skipping past it. Overall, I would suggest not watching this with your parents, not watching this with younger audiences that you don't want to show this content to, but with your friends, with the gals, alone, anytime. It's a fun adventure. I recommend checking it out. So to finish this off, a couple of lessons I learned from this movie was, one, that friends are lit, and that at the end of the day, friends will be there for you. You know, same with family. You know, keep that in mind. But friends are also lit. Friends will be there for you, and they can truly support you in dark times. So it's good to keep them around, and it's good to engage with them frequently. Like, you know, text your friends back, text your homies before bed at night, or start snap streaks or stuff like that, just to keep in contact with them, because it's good to surround yourself with good people. And then the last thing I learned, which I'm surprised I didn't know before, it's probably extremely obvious. I learned that not to give babies nuts before they're 1. Definitely do not give your babies nuts or any food with nuts before they're 1 years old, because apparently their bodies are still developing that barrier against allergies and stuff like that, or the, you know, that defense against allergies and stuff, and so they're much more susceptible to having an allergic reaction after eating a peanut or any sort of other nuts. And with that concludes Roger's review of Friendsgiving. Smash the like button and subscribe if you liked this video or found it helpful, and until next time, catch you later.